We're up. I don't think we need to repeat the moment of silence for the public. We'll let them know we had one. A moment of repose before we get to our business. All right, anybody from the public, Keith? I don't see anybody.
No, sir.
Great. All right, first item on our agenda is a presentation and discussion from Charleston County on various Charleston County transportation projects. And I see Ms. DeToma is here with us. So Keith, unless there's any introductory comments, I'm going to turn the floor and the microphone over to her.
Yeah, I thought this was important. We, as staff, working with county staff, have the privilege of getting regular updates from them on various projects that are going on. And as you all know, as a committee, you all have worked hard to make sure that certain projects we as a city submit both for sales tax and for CTC. We've also, and many of those you've heard reported out as awarding, but thought it was important for you to know where some of those projects stand. We also have submitted our TST projects for this year, as well as sales tax, as well as CTC projects. We've not heard back on TST yet, but around the July timeframe is usually when we get the notification on those projects. And obviously those will be reported out to you unless Debbie got some early insights. And then CTC, the committee meetings and full body meetings will be happening in July and August to determine how those are funded as well. So thought it was important to bring you all up to speed. For those who are new to the committee, you know, the city doesn't have a dedicated transportation pot of money. We lock arms with the county to navigate that from everything from sidewalks to intersection projects to major widenings. So thought it was important for them to give a brief overview about specifically some of the bike ped infrastructure that's coming down the pipe and where those projects stand. And feel free to ask any questions or concerns. So thank you, Debbie, for making the time.
Sure. And I think y'all see John Skojak here. He is our new public liaison. And I was going to actually give him the opportunity as our new public liaison to present this. I'll be here to answer any technical questions. So I am going to give him a shot at giving this presentation. And I think he actually pointed out to me that 20% of our projects that we're working on are city bike ped projects right now. We have over 100 projects and 20% are city bike ped projects, which is great. And yeah, as Keith said, in July, we will take the new projects to council to see what will get funded. We are still working through that. We have to first look at what projects need carryover needs. As y'all know, construction costs have gone up the roof. So a lot of our projects that we have already funded actually need more funding. So we're refining those and we're working hard to put all those together, and they will be going to council in July for new projects. And the CTC will meet the second Tuesday in August, and they will be funding about $2 million in new projects as well. So if that's open to the public, you're more than welcome to come to that meeting. So if not, I'm sure the city or I can keep you posted. Just give us a call at any time. And Keith, is it okay? Could John have rights to share the screen so he can conduct the presentation? Would that be?
He should be okay. If not, I can make him co-host.
I think I can give this a shot here.
You got it.
There, look at that. All right, and are you seeing mine or the?
We're seeing yours.
Okay. Let's see how I can.
Which is fine. We're okay with it.
Let's try this.
We want to know.
There you go. We want to see all your notes. We wanted to see the notes you put in there that said, not only does the city have 20% of the projects, but they're the priority projects.
Yes, well, no, my notes were less exciting. It was just making sure I didn't forget my name and where I work. So, yes, with that being said, so I'm John Skojak. Thank you for the intro, Devery, and a little bit of the background, Keith. So I'm John Skojak with the Charleston County Public Works Department. This presentation will cover bike and pedestrian improvement projects within the city of Charleston. And I'll keep this update at a high level, but obviously Devery and I can answer questions while we navigate through the slide deck. So the first slide here, Ashley Avenue at Congress Street intersection safety. The scope includes the RRFB, which is a rectangular rapid flashing beacon crosswalk, as well as curb extensions and restriping crosswalks A conceptual design has already been approved by the city, and construction commencement at this time is slated for early next year. St. Philip's and Cummings Street at George Street intersection. The scope for this project includes raised crosswalks and the flashing beacon signals. This project is in the preliminary design stage with a completed city conceptual review, and it may be feasible for construction to start early next year if things stay on track with that one. Courtney at Doty pedestrian signal improvements. So this project is an all pedestrian phase, meaning that all 4 ways at that intersection will be stopped. The vehicular traffic will be stopped at that intersection to allow pedestrians to navigate across the crosswalks in a safe manner. Comments have been organized and analyzed and will be reflected on the next set of plans. And an invitation to bid should be advertised this summer. For the Romney Street bike lanes, so the scope of this includes a pavement treatment as well as adding bike lanes. While the project is in design, there's a nearby Trident Tech construction project that may require amendments to this project's plan. So it's not quite in a holding pattern, but we're kind of a wait and see while design is taking place to ensure that that nothing is missed between the 2 projects. The Oceanic Street multi-use path is to be constructed along Oceanic Street to the county skate park. The design is complete, but the county's been waiting on the MS4 and permitting since September of 2020, which is underlined there. Deborah, is there anything to add as far as what we're waiting on or how to expedite that?
I don't. I think we did make Keith aware of this. I don't know if
Okay.
if you can have, maybe we can talk to Matt. I would like to see if maybe we can get on some kind of maybe some kind of agreement or something where we have a turnaround time on these projects moving forward. But it has been in a holding pattern for over 6 months now without comments from the stormwater folks.
And I think my understanding is that the project manager on that spoken to our public service folk, and there's some discrepancies with where maintenance lies between DOT and us that needs to be figured out. So I don't want to speak for Tom, but I think that's where the hurdle is.
Okay, and we
yeah.
could set up a meeting with DOT and him if desired. Just if he can reach out to us, we'll be more than happy to do so.
I think that would be more than beneficial. I think Jim and Rick in the mayor's office speak regularly. So if there's a way to kind of elevate this a little bit, I think that would help too, if you could read between the lines. So, because we don't want to lose this connection and the funding too. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Keith. All right, moving along to the Old Town District improvements. So if you look at the map to the right, it's a combination of shared use paths and sidewalks that'll permit much greater safety walking throughout this, fill in some gaps with some existing sidewalk. The wider areas are in the map here are the multi-use paths. 30% of the plans were received and a field walkthrough will be scheduled with the construction staff in the near future. This project should be out for bid in fiscal year 2023.
Can I ask a question about that one? With the city's sort of still pending process of trying to figure out what to do with that property that we own, the Sumar Street property. I mean, is this going to be interrupted or change at all because how we might actually develop that property?
I mean, we're moving forward with permitting this. If something changes or y'all need changes and we can make it work, we can always do an amendment, or we could do a memorandum of agreement and make those changes later. But we certainly don't want to slow this down. But if y'all figure something out, we could certainly implement any change order needed.
Councilman,
So
I think the only thing that would
Yeah, I
be,
think there's a development agreement out there that's coming before council in the next month or two. It's just good to know that this is a project that's out there so we can make sure that the two dovetail, because quite frankly, I'd rather see this go first.
Hey, Councilmember Seekings, this is Richard Turner.
Hey, Richard, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I was joining in to listen, but I just to give a little background there, we have been working with Eric and the other folks in planning and Keith on that design of Sumar Street. So what's shown on the screen reflects what you all had provided to us as for what the vision was at that time. And if that's changed, obviously we can make some tweaks on Sumar Street as we move forward. So I think they're well coordinated at this point.
the Councilman, that our input on Sumar Street was to hopefully be in concert with what was projected to happen, on the Sumar site with, office space and, city space and all the different things that were thought about there, and especially with ingress and egress. So I think that's really the only portion that, whatever council wills, could possibly change, but everything else, the signalization at Amberley, which I think is going to be important, the realigning of Charlestown with Donahue, the improvements at Orange Grove, signalized intersection, and obviously all the multi-use, especially the connection of the multi-use into Orange Grove. I think all those pieces are things we want to keep going.
Definitely. And I mean, my view of the world is that this project actually enhances the developability, if that's a word, and value of that property. And I think it's likely it'll end up in the private sector somewhere down the road sooner rather than later. So I think it's great. I just want to make sure that we're all coordinated, and thanks to y'all's input, seems like we are. So thank you.
All right, Old Town Road sidewalk project. So the Old Town Road sidewalk will be widened to 10 feet in the limits provided on the slide under the scope there. Preliminary design is close to completion as we work with Parks and Rec to tie into their sidewalk. The overall permit process should be complete later this year, with construction scheduled to start early 2022. All right, the North Bridge Bike and Pedestrian Improvement Feasibility Study. So the North Bridge study includes exploring funding, connecting public outreach, and determining the appropriate engineering. The county will work with Charleston Moves on the outreach piece, and then one alignment will be presented to the public, which is expected to be in the next few months. The Sycamore at 61 improvements focus on the intersection sidewalk and installing a raised crosswalk. Sharrows for the bike traffic will also be added, and advertising to bid is slated for this fall. So the pedestrian improvements around the Glen McConnell Parkway widening, as you see on the map at the lower part of the slide, the blue areas are indicating the areas of multi-use path. A bid package is getting prepared and should be advertised next month, and construction will commence a few months after that.
Can I ask a question about that? So as you know, one of the things that has been talked about a good bit is the extension of Glen McConnell on the other side of the circle. Will we, if that does get extended, I assume it will at some point, be able to include similar improvements on the addition as we go forward?
Every project that we work on now, like especially widening, they always include accommodating bicyclists and pedestrians. That's definitely in all our purpose and needs moving forward.
Right, because I think there's some talk about 2,000 homes out there to the west. It's going to be massive out there.
Does that connect to the village? I'm just curious. Does that connect to, is it called the village off of 61?
So no, not Village Green or Shadow
Okay,
Moss.
it
It's a
won't,
little bit
okay.
south and west of there. It's a new development, a brand new development.
Okay, the
Um,
Long Savannah it used to be, right?
That's
Okay,
what it's gonna be.
okay, yeah, I didn't know if it did have a connection to those on 61 or not, but that's also something to look at too.
Yeah, I don't know if the backside of Long Savannah will actually touch up against Shadow Moss, but if it does, obviously some connectivity would be great. Great, thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, the Savage Road sidewalk project is split into two segments, from Henry Tecklenburg to North Castlewood and South Castlewood to, now see, I asked Every how to pronounce this road. E21? E21?
Etowah.
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 I was trying to remember that one. I was waiting for somebody. Sorry, I'm newer to the area. To Etowah. So the middle segment will not undergo improvements due to the cost and complexity required for that section. And a bid package is scheduled to be advertised next month, with construction starting in the fall. The resurfacing project at Farmfield Avenue is part of the pavement management's resurfacing plan. Upon restriping, sharrows will be painted as well, and the ad to bid should be out soon, with the project beginning this fall. The Stockard-Chadwick improvements along Savannah Highway include improved bike lanes as well as pedestrian crossings. The sharrows there should also aid in bike safety through that intersection. This project is still working through the design phase, with the construction tentatively scheduled to start the fall or late 2021. And Main Road Corridor Segment A. So the pedestrian and bike improvements along this Main Road corridor stretch well beyond Main Road. This project connects Johns Island to the Greenway and Bees Ferry, as well as other areas, including a safe pedestrian bridge over the Sona River as well. Design and right-of-way are currently in progress. The Sea Island Community Sidewalk will be constructed along Maybank near the Main Road intersection. One large benefit of this project is tying into a Habitat for Humanity neighborhood. While design is complete, like the Oceanic Street project, the county is waiting on the city to provide the applicable MS4 and permitting. Maybank Highway and Woodland Shores Road. So the sidewalk and a mid-block crosswalk will assist pedestrians along both Riverland and Maybank. The county is working with the state on the design and funding, and an invitation to bid should go out in 2022. For the Camp Road sidewalk and Riverland Drive, sidewalk and multi-use path will improve the safety around Camp Road and Riverland. The SCDOT is currently reviewing plans, and we're anticipating this going out to bid this fall. For Central Park and Riverland Drive, a proposed multi-use path will be evaluated by council next month. This would connect the Woodland Shores sidewalk to the proposed Riverland multi-use path.
I have a quick question while you're
Oh,
there.
yes, sir.
When you take these to council for their approval and their consideration, does it come along with a budget line item with it? I mean, do you present to them what this is going to cost?
Most of our allocations, yes, they approve those every July. For this particular one, this was a 2016 half-cent sales tax, one of our featured projects, where we allocated 15 million towards James Island intersection and bike ped improvements. So the project was actually to improve the intersection at Central Park and Riverland, and I'm sure you know it's been quite controversial.
Oh yeah.
So they've come to a compromise, and they're focusing, mainly on the pedestrian safety there because of the school. And so they've asked for us to work with DOT, see what we can accommodate per their directive last June. And this was one of the main things they've asked us to look at, which is just huge because this connects over 4 miles. It will connect Maybank to Woodland Shores, to Riverland, to Camp, to the Folly Road bike ped. So that's pretty amazing for James Island if it goes through from a
And this
bike
is
ped
all,
standpoint.
this is all the first half of the half-cent sales tax funded.
Second half cents. This one's a second half cent sales tax project.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
part of the 15 million that was approved for James Island. The other ones, they're either at TST allocation or CTC funded, and those get
Okay.
funded once a year.
Right. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you. I apologize.
No, please.
All
please.
super interesting. So I appreciate it.
So nice segue from Devery to the Folly Road bike and pedestrian improvements here. So for Folly Road, a 7-foot sidewalk will run on, so if you're going towards Folly Beach, on the left side down to Camp Road, and then it'll be followed by an 8-foot sidewalk on the right side. A maintenance agreement is being finalized at the moment, and to include green lanes and dash markings, as you can see in the visual at the top right-hand corner of the slide. And so that's just significantly improved the bike lanes, because you can see in the lower right-hand corner there, it's somewhat tough to distinguish that there's a bike lane there. So this should allow the bike lanes to really pop and to keep our bikers safe. At this point, construction is scheduled to start early 2022. So the Folly Road, Country Club Road improvements involve a combination of a multi-use path, sidewalk, crosswalks, and pedestrian signals. The plans are almost complete and are currently under review. Optimistically, construction could start as early as the first part of 2022. And the last project to cover here, the SCDOT crosswalk enhancements. So crosswalks and ADA ramps are to be installed at Fort Johnson and Folly Roads. The plans are finalized and approved with an invitation to bid going out this summer. Construction will follow a few months after that this fall. So are there any questions, comments that weren't already asked while the presentation was going on?
Mostly that was just me taking, I guess, chairman's privilege and asking a bunch of questions. So thank you, first off, for the presentation. This is all incredibly interesting and exciting for us here in the city. So I'm going to ask the committee if there's any questions. I always start with our fellow Councilmember Brady. Councilmember Brady, if you have any questions, please feel free. If not, we'll turn it back over to the committee.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask about the Sanders Road sidewalks, where that was in the process.
So that one just got approved in February, and it is, there are a lot of wetlands, there's a pond there, so there are some challenges. We're evaluating pervious sidewalk. We're evaluating a lot of things right now for that, but design is underway for that. And we actually may ask for additional funds from either allocation or the CTC. They're being evaluated for additional funds because we already know we'll need some to carry it through construction. So hopefully it'll get funded between one or the other of those and we can move that forward.
Okay, great. Yeah, my neighbor is the last one I'm out walking the dog, so that's helpful.
Yeah, that project is well supported by a lot, so.
John, can you do me a favor and just unshare your screen so I can
Yes,
see
sir.
members of the committee? Because I just can't see them. Great, perfect. Okay, any other member of the committee have any questions about the presentation we just saw?
I do.
Yes,
And
ma'am, please.
sorry to ask John to do this, but I'd love to see the first project that was actually in Congress. That was, I think, slide number 2. So I hate to make you go all the way back there, but I wanted to see it and I had a couple questions.
Sure.
One thing, let's see here. All right, give me just one moment. This one?
Yeah, is that Ashley in Congress?
That's the one. Yep.
Yeah, so it looks like crosswalks and then can you tell me how extended are the curbs?
Let me swap over here so everybody can see it a little bit larger.
And that actually, am I seeing St. Philip and George, I think, instead of Ashley and Congress on here? So it might not even be the right.
Yeah, the other one we're doing curb extensions, not this one, the other one that you mentioned, it was either Phillips or it was requested for some bulb outs to
Bulb
bring-
outs.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so wait, so what are there bulb outs going to be at Ashley and Congress?
There are not, and I'm not sure if the lane widths would permit it, but I can certainly get the answer to that from you from our project manager.
So, I mean, looking at that map, I mean, it's not Ashley and Congress. So I can't really tell what you guys are doing there then, right? Is that right?
Debbie, let me know if I have what y'all shared with us back in March. Is that still
Yeah,
what's the case?
That should be it. Yeah, if you want to,
Give
you
me a
can
second.
feel free to share that with her. I'm trying to see if I can pull up the plans too.
This is what I have from y'all from March, so I don't know if this is.
Yep, there you go. And it
But
has
the
11
curbs
foot
are-
lanes. Yep.
So all the curbs are extended on all sides, obviously crossings at all of them, and then the push button rapid beacon flashers at every corner.
That is very cool.
And then some landscaping.
Yes,
as well.
thank you. Okay, that's awesome. And I also want to add, I'm thrilled for the improvements on Romney. I bike that a lot. And I think it's particularly important because you cannot get east-west. You can't go there by bike or car, because of the of 17. And I'm going to push, and I think Mike Seekings knows where I'm going to go with this, is we definitely need safe passage through UG Street, because from UG all the way up north, I think it's 11 blocks before you hit Romney, and it funnels all the traffic. It's really dangerous there, and we really, really need bike and pedestrian improvements. And it had been promised. This was in the budget back in 2016, and it was part of the mitigation money from the Ravenel Bridge. So it was there, and I don't know how it got moved. And I know there's a lot of, obviously mega competition for the funds, but I really see that as a place that needs to be prioritized. At the very least, to get started, get some street sweeping there. There's all the gravel. I know if you've been under that overpass, it's just like a lot of dirt and gravel. And I know Katie can speak to this, and I know I can. I don't go there with my kids on a bike, because if I fall off, I'm in traffic, and it's deadly. So that's just what I wanted to push as well. But thank you for the Ashley and Congress. That looks great.
So I don't recall, and Keith, I could be wrong, but I don't recall the Hugie being a request this round for evaluations for 2023, but it's certainly.
We asked for intersections, so we asked for Hugie and
Okay.
Ashley. We asked for the second year Ashley at Line.
Okay, I see that one. Yep.
So,
Okay.
those were the locations that we asked for. But yeah.
So it's not on now, but we could ask for it for a future request.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so I have submitted that. I submitted something back, and obviously I'm just a citizen, so I don't know what formality that needs to take, but in February.
I see it here. It says
Okay.
intersection safety improvements to reduce vehicle speed and enhance pedestrian safety. So it was requested, as he said,
Okay,
and it will go through the whole evaluation process, and council will vote on those projects in July.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Mhm.
And I have a question as well on the Romney Street bike lanes. Will that be modeled after the Brigade Street level of infrastructure with the protective pylons and intersection improvements?
I
Yeah,
can
it
take
was-
that on. I can take that on, Devery.
Okay.
The Romney Street project was suggested by this committee to submit. That comes from our People Pedal Plan. If you all as a committee have not taken a look at that, please do. People Pedal Plan was incorporated into our citywide transportation plan that council passed in 2018. Romney Street only requested for basic bike lanes predominantly because of the lack of right-of-way. It's very small street, but still impactful for east-west bike connection there. One of the things that I do think will enhance connectivity. And Devery, this was one of the things on my notes. I'll take a liberty on this one. Is making sure that you all's work is coordinated with Laurel Island. Their project process plans to signalize Romney and Morrison. And I didn't realize that I saw on John's map that you all scope that you identified goes through Morrison. I don't know if that's the case or not, if that was just a line mapping. So correct me if I'm wrong, but if that's the case, it definitely does need to have coordination because Laurel Island Group is looking at their signalized intersection back towards Laurel Island. So how we coordinate that work, I think is going to be crucial. I think Rhett is the engineer on that project.
Okay, great. And I think Mackenzie, who's our PM, she tried to contact someone with the city too, because like I said, I think there's a Trident building that may also add a turn lane somewhere on Romney Street. So she's trying to coordinate so we can get all that in place to make sure that we can install bike lanes throughout the project limits and where the project limits should be with all this new construction going on. And
she can get right to, she can go right to James, James Wallace is now our new Michael Mathis.
Okay, I'll tell her. Yep, so, I'll tell her to contact him.
Connect with him.
And by the way, you have our old Michael Mathis, so thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. All right. Anything else pretty quickly? We're sort of running well behind schedule, and I want to get to the next presentation. So, any other questions?
Can I just bring up a couple? Quick
yes. Sorry.
Quick points.
I know you wanted to ask a few.
I'll be quick. Debbie, Richard, John, if we can look at. And I don't know if SEDOT's new resurfacing plan is going to fall into you all's hands to do, or if DOT is going to do it. But since Tripe Street and Maryville, Asheville is on that list, if that street can be added for Sharrows, that connectivity from Tripe Street to Battery to the bikeway, I think is more than worthwhile. The other thing wanted to, and you might have an answer now, but you can get back to me on Stocker and US 17. We had spoken to Megan about the concepts had directional markings for cyclists within the intersection. And there was a question of whether or not SEDOT would allow that. We didn't get an answer back on that. And then there was also the question of Sharrows on Paris Street connecting into the bike lane on 61. So you had full connectivity there to get through the intersection to the Greenway, et cetera. So wanted to ask about those. And then this one I do want to get on the record, but just because I asked via email but hadn't gotten a response, we did have meetings with SEDOT about their new maintenance procedures when it comes to complete streets and bike ped infrastructure, which I think radically changes our relationship as to how things go. And then also their March memo regarding mid-block crossings. And so wanted to get what you all's view is about those and how you're incorporating that into some of these projects, even like the ones near the college and otherwise.
So I think they're still, from what me and Richard have been asking a lot of people, and they tell us they're still trying to iron things out. But I actually just sent them, now that you have this complete street policy, for instance, on the Folly Road bike ped, they were requiring the city and the town maintain the sidewalks because they're non-standard since they're more than 5 feet. And since in the last 2 weeks, I've really pushed back on that. And they said, okay, we won't make them maintain that. So they're actually going to take that out of the maintenance agreement. So I still think they're going to fight to ask us to maintain some stuff, but I think we can do a little bit more pushback and see what they will agree to maintain. If it's a decorative signal, ped head, they might make the city still maintain it. I'm sure there will still be little caveats. They did mention that it would have to be concrete for a multi-use path for them to consider to maintain, and not asphalt. So I guess I just need to get a good handle on when we move forward with these designs on things like that. They do still have certain regulations and material specs. So
the leverage that we do have is in that complete streets directive. They list all the things that they're willing to maintain: crosswalks, bike lanes, sidewalks. They list it all out. And so I do think we should hold them accountable to that part. Leland did say, I don't think it was a private meeting, it was public. So that even the ability possibly to revisit some maintenance agreements previously, they haven't figured out what that looks like or otherwise, but that was also mentioned as well. So I do think it's something that we should be mindful of on some of these projects coming up, especially, Glen McConnell Main Road, you know, those pieces. What about the mid-block crossing piece? Because I think that was kind of under the radar, but I think that those directives were kind of major too.
So the ones that we just presented on haven't been, I don't believe we have encroachment permits for those yet. So we can certainly submit them and you know, it would be an encroachment permit if they were not going to maintain them. So I think we'll be okay there.
Okay, yeah, they have, there's some design criteria that they're more open to now. With mid-block crossings, if they're near schools, if it's a certain speed, some things that they haven't considered before. So just want to be able to take advantage of that in the design, but I belabored the point, but yeah, cool.
And also I think, I mean, I'm not sure we're talking about this. I guess the city has a different special emphasis crosswalk at downtown areas. I guess the spacing is different for the special emphasis than what they require. So
yeah, that really just has to do with our markings machine, but I'm not going to turn down SADOT doing crosswalks.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. So we would go with their special emphasis.
I'm more than okay.
Okay.
Okay. We're well behind schedule, but worthwhile time spent. Thank you all very much for your time, John and Devery and Richard back there. Appreciate it. Please keep us up to date. I will just sort of put a final sort of emphasis point on anything that has to do with Northbridge and getting the Northbridge study and then getting something built across the Northbridge to make it safe to cross for every human being who wants to do it would be fantastic. So let us know what we can do to help along on that path. So with that, thank you all so much for spending time with us. We're going to move on to our next agenda item unless there's anything else for the common good. Great. All right. Thank you all. I think next we've got Mr. Most and Ms. Sharo out there who are going to talk to us about the Ashley Bike Ped project.
Well, great. I'll give
Who's going to take over? Edmund? Great.
Great. Yeah, I'm going to do a little intro, and we have a little technological hurdles here. So if someone could give me a screen share, I'll thumb through our fairly simple PowerPoint, and then Terry's going to kind of do the majority of the talking. But only a handful of people on here know who I am or who capital projects are. We're a division inside of Parks Department. I'm Deputy Director of Parks Department. I manage the capital projects group. And we do the majority of the city's construction in-house management, except for stormwater for the most part. So we were lucky enough to be tagged to build a bridge. We've never built a bridge before. We typically build museums, labs, parks, fire stations. And we were very fortunate to be working with Keith on this one, who's been very, very helpful. But our structure is I'm the deputy director and we have multiple project managers, and Terry Shiro is the project manager on this project. And this is actually her sole project. We are not bridge builders over here. So we have been drinking from a fire hose. And I realized that a lot of people have been in the dark ever since we were, basically it was announced that we were awarded the grant on this. So Terry's going to kind of run through what we've been doing and a couple of images, and some of this stuff will be kind of new information. A lot of it may be old information, but we're just not yet at the point where we can release the renderings of the movable span bridge, which everybody's interested in. But this project consists more of not just movable span, but intersection improvements and whatnot that I think everybody's interested in here. So with that, can I share my screen now?
The power is yours, sir.
Let me know if you're seeing it.
You're ready to go. Good. Excellent.
Good.
Here it comes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then with that, I'm going to introduce Terry Shiro. She's the project manager. Her video is off just because of poor connection, but I'm going to ask her to tell me to just page through the slides as we go through this.
Hi, everybody. I wasn't sure of the background that the crowd would have, so I just started from the beginning. And this was one of the figures used in the original grant application. And so that it's not current, it's just something to put up there. So if you want to flip through a couple slides.
How many more?
Keep going.
Maybe just a project background. So just kind of what the order I was going to go through was background, history, and schedule, and then kind of to help people understand where we are and what we're doing, a description of design, build, procurement, and why it seems like we've been working on this a while. So you want to get to the project
Slide
backgrounds?
4.
Yeah, slide 4. Edmund?
Yeah, I kind of knew that this wasn't going to work. I'm on slide 4 on my screen here.
Well, I'm familiar with it.
There you
I can
go.
just talk.
There you go.
Okay. So the grant was put together based on the premise there's no safe passages for bicycles or pedestrians to cross the Ashley River. We've had fatalities. It's been in the public eye for decades. So we've got the 8.5 mile greenway that needs to connect to downtown. I think you guys know all of this. But the focal point of the project was a 0.4 mile standalone bridge. And then to support it, we're kind of connecting intersections to help with the pedestrian connectivity. Do you want to go to slide 5?
Mm-hmm.
My screen, so for the grant was put together and successfully applied for in July 2019. We were awarded in November. We hired the design build support company HDR in September 2020. Because of COVID and various delays, we ended up getting a 1-year extension. So previously we were supposed to have hired a design build team in September 2021, but it's been pushed back to September 22. So we anticipate being able to publish the RFP actually in March, and then hopefully complete the design in the winter of 2023 and have the construction complete in the summer 2025. Do you want to go
Keep
the
going.
6th slide?
Yeah.
So one of the major intersections that needed some attention was the West Ashley Greenway and Wapu Road. Wapu Road is got a higher volume of traffic and a higher speed. We're still finalizing the design there, but the intention is to try to increase safety and visibility.
Next slide.
Our next intersection is how the bridge will tie in on the peninsula side. And so this is the current conditions at the B Street Lockwood intersection. And, we've got a ramp with a large radius. And our intention is to decrease the radius to slow the pedestrians down a little bit and bring the bridge in to connect into the infrastructure in the peninsula. So this Folly Road intersection, and again, we haven't finalized the design, but our intention is to get the people on the West Ashley Greenway across the intersection safely and efficiently. And we've been looking at a couple of different options there. But currently they have to go, if you can see south at that Windermere crossing, they have to go down there and across to get, and it's kind of difficult to see if they're not familiar with the area.
Next slide.
Yes. So along 17 North, initially when the grant was applied for, it was imagined as a completely separate bridge, but we've kind of altered it. We thought it made more sense when we looked at the constraints of the area to actually widen the causeway. And So along 17 North, we're going to widen the causeway and have a few retaining walls in the areas that have the stream is a little closer to the road. And do you want to go to the next slide? The bridge is going to be approximately 50 feet south of the northbound 17 bridge. This allows for DOT to do maintenance and bring barges. So when they have to do maintenance to the pilings, they can reach their bridge. It'll have a movable span that ties into the existing fender system. And we've gotten Section 6 has looked at this, and we've talked to DOT and been in communication with them the whole time. So we're on track for this portion of the bridge, it seems. This is just the general schedule. Again, so for design build procurement, what we're doing now with the design build prep is basically coming up with the constraints and the general plan that we want to see happen. We're doing all the environmental assessments and ultimately going to put the permits in place and find, for instance, the depth of the confining layer for geography, or the wetlands, areas that need to be avoided because of maybe archaeological finds. So that's the portion of the project we're in right now. And what we do is we take all of this information that we gather and we publish it in the RFP. And then the design build teams use that information to properly plan out the schedule and cost that they anticipate it's going to take. Do you want to take it to the next slide? So these are the tasks that HDR was asked to do. The aerial mapping are completed. The traffic is in the final stages. The environmental document is in the final stages. We've got, I've got another slide on NEPA. The roadway path design and structures is all together with the traffic being submitted to Section 6 DOT for their final approval. We've had the first draft of the hydrology report, and that report essentially determines what the height of the bridge needs to be. So in the event of a storm event, the bridge is a safe level. The geotech report we anticipate, I believe this week, and the utility coordination. So for instance, where any communication lines, the power lines or sewage within our corridor, so that we can make sure that we plan for it. That final report, I think we're going to have a meeting next week, and then the final report following. And for this project, we're staying within the DOT right-of-way, so we don't anticipate needing right-of-way. But that is a standard thing. We're in the final stages of RFQ, so that's request for qualifications. So the way the process works is we ask for the teams to submit their qualifications, we shortlist it, and then the shortlisted teams will respond to the request for proposal. Do you want to go to the next? So these are the various NEPA sections. So we don't anticipate any land use impact or farmland. The cultural resources are ongoing. The Tribal Historic Preservation Office has responded. The standard response, if we find anything, to please stop and contact them. No impact to environmental justice. Standard response for biological resources. We have, in Charleston, we're used to working in a marine environment. So this is normal response. We're not anticipating finding any endangered species or I guess the habitat. It's the correct habitat, but we don't anticipate an impact. Again, we're used to working in a marine environment, so we are going to have some mitigation for wetlands, but nothing abnormal, and we are minimizing them. Some of you may have been involved with the public involvement virtual meeting, which had overwhelmingly positive support. And standard hazardous materials environmental site assessment showed no finding of significant concern. I can't see what's on to the right over here, but
it's just
okay,
hazardous waste.
Socioeconomics. So 4F is kind of an interesting one. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's kind of if you impact park facilities, and we've been going back and forth with if there might be a, quote, impact. And it basically means if we have to adjust the West Ashley Greenway to assist with the Folly crossing. So at this point, we don't think that there's going to be a 4F situation, but even if there is, because we are the city of Charleston, working with the city of Charleston, there shouldn't be a problem. And that's kind of a lot of information, but that's where we are. And if you guys have any questions.
All right, any questions for Ms. Sharrow or Mr. Most on what is the most exciting project in the city of Charleston currently?
Let me add just a bit of color so you all understand what Edmund mentioned earlier about this being a bridge project that the city hasn't done before. Some of you may know this who are, been in Charleston for a while. The Crosstown Septima Clark Parkway was actually funded by the first round of the type of grant that we got. It was formerly called Tiger. When we got it, it was called Build. It's now called Raise in its new administration. That funding process went through the state DOT, and the city worked with the state DOT to get that project done. The difference on this project, even though we've had a lot of support from the state DOT, is that the city is the direct fund recipient. Money is not going through another entity. It's coming directly to us. And so how we use the money, what processes are taken, and all that have to all follow federal guidelines. So we're not doing city processes with this project. It's all federal guidelines. So all that stuff is brand new, all having to learn and relearn and otherwise as a team to make sure that everybody's on the same page about that. So that's very different than what our usual city functions are. So we're grateful for the patience that's been given from stakeholders as we've navigated this. But I think Terry and Edmund and Jason and their whole team has done an awesome job with our Federal Highway Division office and also the design build team from the state DOT.
It is certainly a learning process for everybody. Okay, a lot to take in. Any questions of the committee before I get to Ms. Zimmerman? I'm checking with Councilmember Brady and see if he's got any questions. If not, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Zimmerman.
Nope, you can turn it over to Katie.
Great, thank you. Katie?
Can you pull the slide back up that showed the causeway leading to the bridge?
Slide.
It's like slide 7.
Yeah, I don't remember which number it was.
That one?
Yeah.
Or this one?
The one right before it. So
There it is.
just to make sure, I'm not the smartest. When you say between 5 and 9 feet between edge of pavement and bike path, are you saying it's a between 5 and 9 foot buffer between where the people on bike and foot will be?
Yes.
The cars
Yes.
are? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And much needed along there, as you well know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
And just so that there's understanding, the bridge itself, we changed it from the first year we applied to second year. From end to end will be 20 feet. So correct me if I'm wrong, Edmund and Terry, 18 feet of usage space, which is way more than what's at Ravenel Bridge. So pedestrians and cyclists both having ample space is going to be available on that bridge span.
Right. Any other questions from members of the committee? There will be much more to come on this project in the very near future, for sure. So any questions?
I would just
I see
sorry, go
a
ahead.
hand up. I can't really see my screen, but I see a hand up. Who is it?
Yeah, so
Hello, this is Adriana.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Hi. If this bridge is gonna be at like just to transit, or are you also planning like to put on some like benches or some other things like people can actually stay and enjoy, or is it only like just cross there as fast as you can?
We're gonna have any parklet features on this bridge or not?
Well, because it is a movable span, there's going to be break areas for people to rest while the bridge is open.
Perfect. So I think those rest areas will also be available when the bridge is closed. So I think we'll get a benefit all the time from that. Which, if any of you, I'm sure you haven't been down to Low Battery, one of the really great features along there is the parklets and areas to spend a little extra time.
And then just following up, because this is mainly for commuters, and from what I saw in the slide number 2, there's a lot of commuters at 2 a.m. in the morning, which I don't doubt. Are you planning like to have special features to ensure safety and security along the bridge? Like, let's say I have a flat tire and nobody's around and I don't have light and I don't know how to repair it, or like all these like broader considerations of just having enough stations for, let's say, emergencies or small problems that you might have along the bridge or the greenway, because the idea is of course to have this smooth flow between the two areas.
So Terry, let me take part of that, and I think if you could take the other part of it. So what's different about this project than what we typically do in capital projects is we procure a design team. They design the whole project. We do all of our public outreach. We go to all the design review boards. We finalize the document, and then we put it out to bid. Design, bid, build. This project is very different. It's almost like you build a kitchen and you fill it with ingredients, and then you bring the chef in and their staff, and they create the entree. So all those details haven't been worked out yet. Once we have this RFP that has the 30% level drawings and we hand it to an engineering and design team with a contractor that are together, a lot of these other details will be kind of finalized, if you will. So again, we're just kind of setting the kitchen up right now. But Terry, do you want to talk about any, I guess, blue phones or any other types of communication devices that have been discussed thus far?
Well, I can jump in here, Edmund. So this is clearly a multi-dimensional project, one that we've wanted for a long time. And it's different in many respects, not the least of which is when it's all said and done, this is going to be a city-owned bridge. And we will be in charge then of maintaining it, managing it. And we're talking currently with the DOT, and Mr. Benjamin can jump in whenever he wants with any details, but we're talking with the DOT about how we're going to manage it, whether it be some opportunities for shared management, for instance, controlling the span as it opens and closes, and also making sure that we have everything along the way to make it as safe and accessible as is humanly possible. So all those details will get filled in once we get past 30% into the design and then into the actual functioning and management of the span. So more to come on that. I think it's a little premature other than to say, we're going to make sure we do everything we can to make it as accessible and as safe as is humanly possible.
Yeah, and the only piece I add is I want to give credit to a process that to me sets a standard for what we do from a design standpoint. If you have not taken a look at the updated West Ashley Greenway Bikeway Master Plan, it lays out standards for what's supposed to happen there. And so, in our grant that we wrote, especially with the crossing of Wapu, it acknowledged the concept design for Wapu and all those different things. So that's something that I think is essential. Before we even had started doing the grant 3 years ago, we worked with other cities that had done similar type of projects. And so the ease of access, the safety, connectivity, all those things were mantras that were laid out to us and what we're trying to make sure we deliver with the project. But everything Edmund said in terms of process, it's very different. So even what will be made out to the public and shown at our next TNT meeting, is only 30%, right? So all sorts of improvements, changes, and otherwise can occur between that 30 and 100% design, and definitely welcome you all's input in that process.
And I think it's interesting to note, if you are a regular on the Ravenel Bridge, which is now what, Edmund, 15 years old, they have just recently installed pedestrian bike emergency call boxes after 15 years. We'll be well ahead of that curve.
Yeah, and it seems like it was an afterthought because now it crushes or it squeezes
Yeah.
it in a little bit more now.
They actually create a danger.
Right.
So we will be all over that. Don't you worry. All right, we are well past our appointed hour, and there's still one more item on our agenda. So are there any more questions for Ms. Shah or Mr. Most? They will be back with us again, I'm certain, in the fall. Although we want to keep them focused and not take them away from their appointed duty of making sure this project gets in good position. So if there's no more questions, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Benjamin very briefly for any update. Then I've got one thing for y'all, and then we're going to adjourn. Mr. Benjamin.
Yeah, so just one note. Thank you, Edmund and Terry, and also to county staff for being a part of the conversation. The capital projects team is going to be doing a regular update to the Traffic and Transportation Committee in July. I believe it's July 20th, council member. And that's where they will be they will be revealing the renderings during that meeting. Those are public meetings, so you'll be able to see exactly what the causeway looks like, what some of the preliminary concepts are for the intersections as well. Just a couple other things, and I'll end with this other piece, but want to let you all know, internal city staff, along with Charleston Moves and MUSC, for the past 2+ months have been working on a new RFP for bike share and micromobility, specifically Class 1E bikes. Our existing contract with Gotcha, now Bolt, ends November 23rd. And so we want to do is make sure that there is no gap. That being said, there's been a lot of changes in the industry since we first launched, literally a month before I started at the city. And so we wanted to make sure that the things about equity, expansion beyond the peninsula, connectivity, and all those things were taken into consideration. So we're excited about that. That's supposed to hit the streets this week, either today or tomorrow. I got to check. And vendors will have 30 days to respond back, and then we'll begin through the selection process. So we're excited about that. The fact that we'll continue to keep bike share, but also expand out into Class 1E bikes as well. So just be on the lookout for that. And then even though council members, she wasn't officially approved yet at council, hopefully at the next one, we do have a new member, Adrian. So I want to give the floor to you just to say hello and introduce yourself to the rest of the committee, if you don't mind.
Oh, hello. Thank you for the introduction. And well, this is Adriana Lopez. I am really happy to be here with you. I am a resident in Charleston for almost a year now, and I am passionate about cyclists and pedestrians, and I have been working in those topics for many years. I am very interested in all the projects, and I see very exciting things coming in the city. That's why I've been trying to knock like many doors as I have found. And yeah, I'm happy to work with you all.
Well, thank you for your willingness to serve our city. We appreciate it. I suspect unless Councilmember Brady gets in the middle of it, we'll get you approved at the next meeting. I'm just kidding. Believe me, the fact we didn't vote last meeting had no reflection on you or this committee. We had some other things going on in the city, but we will get you through and this approved in July. So thank you. All right, so one last thing before we all go. The worst kept secret in Charleston is probably the fact that you all know that Mr. Benjamin is going to be leaving the city. It is something that we all are sad to see happen, but he's off with his family for great opportunities in the Washington, D.C. area. I suspect that he will find himself well ensconced in what is currently a busy Washington, D.C. area, and will give us some opportunities to step up our game at the next and 2 levels up in government. So with that, we wish him well. I just want on a personal note, thank him. One of the great things that he has done, and there have been many, has been to be passionate about the things that we talk about in this committee and to be a leader on this committee. And without him, we wouldn't have done as much as we've done. And this, I can tell you, Councilmember Brady and I said on many, many committees, this committee has had a true impact and will continue to do so. And it's largely in part and thanks to Keith Benjamin. So Keith, keep us in your phone, take our calls. Good luck, and together we will accomplish great things. We appreciate everything you've done for us. Thank you so much.
I thank you, sir. And this committee was defunct when I came on board for whatever reasons. And so I can't thank you all enough for deciding to take this up, and to the council members. Councilman Brady wasn't a council member when he was a part of it. So we're going to take credit for giving him a launch pad into his council seat. But interestingly enough, literally the exit that I take to get to our home that's in DC, the pedestrian bridge fell down today in the middle of 295. It's the hottest thing on Twitter right now. You can see all the pictures and otherwise. Truck came through, knocked the whole thing down. And so this issue about pedestrian safety and bike safety is something, and the conversations that Congress is having about infrastructure matter to us, not at this federal level, but really down here locally. And so I want you to know how effective you all have been to push certain things. You know, we wouldn't have the first protected bike infrastructure without you all. So I just, you know, really appreciate you all's work on this committee. And my hope is that it grows and continues to. So thank you.
Okay, we're a little beyond our appointed hour, but I think for good reasons. We had an interesting meeting. So if not, if there's nothing more for the greater good, we'll once again thank Mr. Benjamin for all his hard work. Thank you all for being part of this committee and for taking time out of your busy schedules to serve the city of Charleston. And we will see you at our next meeting.
Bye.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
night.
Keith.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.